Another thing that's changed, Michael, too, over the last 20 years, I'd say, is entrepreneurship is more of a thing. It used to be 30 years ago, you're doing what, young man? You're starting a business? You're too young. Go get a job. That was the prevailing attitude. Whereas today, hey, entrepreneurship is everywhere. We got Shark's Tank and Dragon's Den, and media talks about what Elon Musk had for breakfast. And, we're all over the entrepreneur culture. And so we're top of mind.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. I am your host, Michael Palmer, and today's show is going to be a fantastic one. Our returning guest is an entrepreneurship expert, Roger Pierce. Welcome back to the show.
Excited to be here, Michael.
Yes, I'm excited to have you. And, it has been a while, and I'm excited to hear all the amazing things that have been going in the world of entrepreneurship and small business building that you've been working on for the last couple of years. So maybe give us a little update for those that haven't heard you on our podcast before, a little bit of your background and how you ended up doing what you're doing today.
I'll do my best. For sure. I am a self-described lifelong entrepreneur. I've had 14 small businesses that I care to mention. Maybe a couple in between there we won't talk about. But it really was in 2003 that I got in the business of training entrepreneurs, and that was through a company I co-founded called BizLaunch. And we got in the business of running courses for entrepreneurs. It was the up and running BizLaunch program. We offered a 30-hour training program, did it in classrooms back then, city hall conference rooms, lecture halls, and our own space eventually in downtown Toronto. And that kind of morphed into doing a lot of seminars and things. And then we got into some sponsors who wanted to get behind what we were doing. Well, we charged for this course, but then we attracted some corporate sponsors like Bell and Visa. And eventually Scotiabank became a pivotal client for us. Scotiabank and the company, we negotiated a deal to do small business training sessions, seminars, right in Staples stores. Wow. And it grew from a pilot project in Toronto to a national program right across Canada, where we did like 65 different stores, all with the space of a couple of years. So we would run, 90-minute sessions for free for customers, very similar to what Home Depot does on, how to install your kitchen sink.
Yeah.
We were doing small business topics like how to pay less tax or how to write a business plan or low-cost marketing tools, that kind of thing. And Staples wanted us in there because it was an attraction for their small business customers. It was value add. And heck, they were sitting there for 90 minutes, so we could offer them things from Staples stores and call the manager up of the store to introduce himself. And it was just a win-win. It was really good for both of us. So we did that for a number of years. And then I sold my half of the company in 2011. And today, since that time, I pivoted to do small business content for banks and for brands. So if you go on a bank website and you click on the business tab, most of the banks in Canada, a few banks in the US, banks in New Zealand, banks in Australia, they've got a small business resource hub. You've probably accessed this yourself or know people who do. And you've got things on there like, articles, business plan templates, calculators. That's the stuff that we produce now for banks and for a few brands, including our friends at Sage Accounting Software. So I'm not so much in the business now of training entrepreneurs, although I am producing a lot of different types of content. And as we talked about earlier, Michael, some of the content we make for the accounting is for the accounting channel, accounting professionals, bookkeepers, and accountants. And I've run a few webinars and seminars along the way to help folks in that field as well. So I love what I do. I get to educate entrepreneurs and help them learn. Along the way, I've co-authored a book called Thriving Solo. I'm working on a second book now about entrepreneurship. I'll come back gladly to your podcast when that's launched. Maybe
Beautiful.
we can talk about that again. But I love what I do, and it's all about helping entrepreneurs and getting them over those challenges that we all inevitably face.
Wow. That's pretty cool. I mean, it's really interesting trajectory and a very cool way of delivering content back when you're doing it in Staples, and now you're doing it right across multiple platforms, multiple brands. Looking back, our listener is small business owner, bookkeeping business owner, or aspiring to be one, or maybe aspiring not to be one, depending on where they're at. What do you find are the common themes around both the challenges, but also some of the opportunities? I mean, you've been there. One day you have an opportunity, the next day it seems you got a challenge in small business. What's been your experience?
Well, it's interesting you talk about that. I often refer to it as the roller coaster ride of entrepreneurship. And I've given tons and tons of talks on this. You've got to be prepared for those ups and downs. One day you're riding high, top of the roller coaster. One day you're terrifying low. Money's running out. Client disappears on you. Staffing problems. This is life as an entrepreneur. And, there's no one way to prepare yourself for it, but a lot of people, I think, find comfort in a good support group. I've got my own kind of small business buddies. We get together, probably have a few too many cocktails when we do, but it's for lunch or for drinks, sometimes a game of poker. And I find even just that connection, talking to other people, how you doing, helping each other out, is so important to the success of an entrepreneur, because you can't do it alone. It's a very isolating profession, right? Especially when you're just starting out as yourself and maybe don't have any partners or employees. So I think the best thing we can do is kind of surround ourselves with people and join networking groups. Those help as well. But there are so many challenges to running a business. I mean, one has to be prepared to do it all: the accounting, the marketing, the sales, the finance, the hiring, the staff. I was talking to an entrepreneur just this morning who emailed me and said, you know what, I want to go into another business. I'm sick and tired of managing people. So he wants to get out of the business he's in, and he wants to go into another business that's just him. So obviously that's going to be some kind of consulting gig. And he's got to outsource for the help he needs, right? And not have to have that HR burden. So all these things, there's so many different challenges that come up, but I love the fact that as an entrepreneur, there's always a workaround, right? You can always find a way to make it work for you and find your preferred way of being an entrepreneur. It doesn't always have to be a big company with a bunch of employees. I mean, my favorite quote, I think it's from Tim Ferriss, the author of The 4-Hour Workweek. He got tired of people asking him, how big is your company? How many employees do you have? What's your revenue size? And he would say something like, don't ask me how many employees I have. Ask me how many people work for me. And he would answer 250 at the time. And that's how many suppliers and contractors and other freelancers that he was keeping going. And I think that's a much more apt measurement today.
It totally is, yeah.
Of a small business, right? So it's a fascinating career. I love being an entrepreneur. I know it's got challenges, but hey, we're all in this together and we can help each other out.
It is. And you mentioned the building the business to suit the person that's building it, right? Often, and we've talked about this actually on some recent podcast episodes, is, that end in mind. Many people start going into business thinking that, it's going to look a certain way and forget about the way that they actually want it to be. And so it ends up being the way that people think that it's going to be, with problems and staff problems and issues and all that good stuff. And just knowing that, that's just a part of the program, versus saying, like this fellow is now that you've spoke about, he's going to build a brand new business that's going to be designed more to suit him than just being the way that it's going to be. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes people make is letting it kind of evolve and thinking that it'll sort of come around eventually. But if it's not intentional, that's where it becomes who knows what.
Absolutely. And design your business with purpose. I think that what you're talking about. Know what you want. I mean, look, when we train entrepreneurs, there's a process of self-assessment. You're starting a business. Don't go into it just for the money. I know that's contrary to what Mark Cuban just said, but go into it for something you love to do and you're passionate about. Go into it for perhaps a mission and a purpose you want to fulfill. And along the way, think about how you want to live as an entrepreneur. I mean, are you married? Have you got a family? You got a partner? Responsibilities there? How much time off do you want a year? How much time off do you want in a week? What kind of income do you want to make? All these things are factors, as well as what you're good at doing, what your skills are. All these things are factors to consider when designing the ultimate business for you. Right? And a lot of people, it makes me sad, they jump into the opportunity without really taking a minute to think about fit. You've probably come across some entrepreneurs like that too, and they're not happy because maybe they're making money, but they're not happy about it.
Absolutely, it can be devastating, and as well, the fit changes over time with life. Life changes, family grow, evolve depending on where a person is at, and so the fit changes, and so it's like kind of looking out forward with purpose and saying, okay, where's my life going? How's that going to work? How's the way I'm working today going to look when I retire or when or want to semi-retire or I'm going to have children or I'm going to expand or I'm going to, who knows what. There's all these phases. I know personally myself, when I started this business, I was not even married. So, I had my fiance at the time. And so I had a couple children, game changes. And then it changes again and again and again every time they go through their different stage of life. So the business has had to evolve to fit my life. And if I didn't make those changes, if I didn't think, sometimes I think it's just a bit of the luck that it's gone that way, but it could be a real big meat grinder if I hadn't made those changes and sort of said, oh geez, this is looking different. I need to change how I'm doing things.
And how lucky are you to be in a position to do that?
That's right. That's right. And that is being an entrepreneur. That as an entrepreneur, we do have the opportunity to determine where we're going to go. It doesn't always work out, but that is one of the big opportunities, is that freedom to sort of create, I think. To jump back to something you'd said when you were training entrepreneurs, small business owners, I'm really curious, like, these were short sessions. You did these, it was like I think you said a 30-hour course. What did you see during that? Did you make a difference? Is everybody different? Did they pop at different stages? What were some of the limiting factors of the entrepreneurs that you saw go through that? I'm really curious because that was a big chunk of your life, helping people go from, like what we're talking about, going from one sort of stage of their business and evolving it through education.
Yeah. And entrepreneurs come from all different streams. I've kind of got a list of them. Most people come from a job. They've got a job and they hate it and they want to start a business. That usually happens early midlife. By the way, the average startup today is aged 42.
Wow.
So it's not all young people, despite what you might see. It's not. The average startup in North America is 42.
Wow.
They come from new Canadians or new immigrants to this country or any country, right? Come here maybe with previous business experience. So that's a channel. They come from post-secondary, graduating college, university, or even high school and looking to start a business. There's also seniorpreneurs. I hate that term, but people who have left their job but want to start a business. So they're coming into the field with experience and hopefully some capital, right? Maybe set up a small consulting shop. And then there are what I call the career transition. So they left their job or they were downsized. And now they're thinking, do I really want to go back to that? maybe now's the time for me to pivot and start my own small business. So that's kind of who you saw in that original training program, is people from those 5 different streams. And my favorites are what I call the corporate escapees, the ones who have made the decision to leave the corporate prison. They would take our little program at night while they have their job, which is so smart. Keep your day job, keep the money coming in while you get your business kindled and going. And then eventually, when you replace that income, you can leave. Because those are the folks that come into it with purpose. They've got, some responsibilities, maybe family or otherwise. Hopefully they got some capital. They're serious about their business. And the stats are they're the ones most likely to succeed.
Wow.
So
interesting.
It's great to work with entrepreneurs of all different sizes and shapes. I mean, young entrepreneurs are fun as well, too. I did many years with Junior Achievement of Canada, working with young entrepreneurs there. I took that program myself in high school. So, but young people, they come up with a lot of energy and vim and vigor, but not so much capital or experience, right? So everybody comes into entrepreneurship with a different set of skills and assets, so to speak, resources. And you kind of have to work with what people have.
Interesting. And the most successful being the corporate escapee.
Yeah. The ones who are in it, they've got responsibilities, external responsibilities, like a spouse who says, okay, you've got 12 months to make this work.
Yes.
Or you're going back to your job.
Yes.
Which is a true story.
Yes. Yeah, no, absolutely. So now, over the years, things have changed. We talked a little bit about that. You ended 2011 with Biz Launch, and here we are in 2024. What's changed, do you think, for these small business entrepreneurs?
Well, it's a very good question, a very broad question. Look, I've got a book coming out. I'll share a little sneak peek. It's called The Unsure Entrepreneur. And it talks about this very, very subject, which is near and dear to my heart. The book is all about what are the good, the bad, and the ugly sides of entrepreneurship, so people can make a choice whether or not it's the right career path for them. But what's changed over the last 10 years or so is the technology. It's so easy now to get more stuff done. I mean, gone are the days when you need to open up a big office and have employees sitting at desks or computers or typewriters back in the early days. You don't need to staff up. You can start a business for less than $1,000, right? You need a website, you need a computer and a phone, really.
That's
don't
it.
you? And some apps. Look what we're doing here today, talking on this podcasting app. So that's exciting to me because the technology is so affordable and accessible and empowering for entrepreneurs. I'm fascinated by all the apps that come out. I think, how did they think about that? Think of that app, but good for them. That's fantastic. What a great solution for entrepreneurs. And now with AI here, forget about it. It's just opening up so many possibilities for entrepreneurs to get started. So it's a very exciting time. Another thing that's changed, Michael, too, over the last 20 years, I'd say, is we're more in the common culture. We're more in the common language. Entrepreneurship is more of a thing, right? It used to be, and I'm dating myself here, but 30 years ago, you're doing what, young man? You're starting a business? You're too young. Go get a job. That was the prevailing attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas today, hey, entrepreneurship is everywhere. We got Shark's Tank and Dragon's Den, and media talks about what Elon Musk had for breakfast, and we're all over the entrepreneur culture.
That's right.
And so we're top of mind, and it's more accepted, and that translates to me in more support. We're seeing a lot more government programs. We're seeing a lot more resources out there for entrepreneurs, companies themselves, telecoms, banks, etc. Look at your sponsors. They're all there to help support entrepreneurs.
Absolutely.
And that's a big change.
Big change. For our community, for our listener right now, this is a huge opportunity, has been for a long time, in terms of helping those small businesses financially, right? With the finances, empowering business owners around their finances and taking advantage of the different needs, all those different categories of entrepreneurs that you mentioned, each one of them has a different need when it comes to what a bookkeeper or an accountant can offer.
Mm.
And really, I think that's the opportunity there too, is to fully understand those different types of entrepreneurs. What are their needs? What's different about them than the person who's escaping the corporate world to someone who's just getting started or coming from school or changing careers or the end of their career going into business. And also the technology changes, increased regulations, all of these things that happen. It's just continually a more complex world, lots of easy things, but also a lot of complexity that's come about.
Very good point. You're right. And I look at your success, Michael, and you've got so many great moving parts now in the community and the podcast and the service you're providing to entrepreneurs. It's fantastic. But think about how much harder that would have been 20 years ago without the...
It is crazy. Like you mentioned AI, like it's hard to even keep up on what is changing in AI. And just, I learned, I watch... Instagram. I'll be on Instagram. I find it to be one of the better platforms for just delivering stuff that I want, right? Nothing, it doesn't force in negative stuff. I find other platforms, it's like, it'll take me off into a world that's not my world. And so stuff about business, stuff about my kids, parenting, they'll come up. But I learned so much about AI, and then I apply it. This little snippets, right? I'll apply it. I was like, what? How did A, someone figure that out? B, it's just remarkable how it changes how I do my work. It is changing how we work, which is very exciting. And lots of opportunities, lots of moving parts. This would have been very difficult to do 2 years ago, 3 years ago. The technology just keeps getting better and better.
Absolutely. And thank goodness. I mean, remote work, hybrid options. I mean, I've got people I work with in different parts of the world, and it's like they're sitting next to you. It's so easy.
Yeah, real easy. And that's the pandemic. I haven't spoken to you. You were on the podcast pre-COVID. What was that like for you? I'm just curious.
Well, it was a busy house with my wife and my 2 kids and the dog, and everybody at home. I can't say I want to relive that scenario again. But it's hard to really focus on getting work done, I found, because everybody's kind of tripping over each other a bit. And you'd have the interruptions of school, of course. Help your son with his audio technical problems.
That's right. Talk about multiple hats.
Turn on your camera,
Yeah. How old are your kids now?
Well, we did a bit of one's going off to university college this year, maybe, and one's in grade 6, 12 years old. Boy,
okay, big gap.
The girl's the oldest one, 5 years apart.
Yeah.
But technology certainly was the prevailing savior throughout COVID, because we can keep doing stuff. And for content, interestingly enough, we pivoted and started selling to banks in particular, pandemic crisis survival content for businesses. So
interesting.
Articles, crisis planning guides, burn rate calculator to see how much your cash how long your cash would last. It was pretty scary. And banks put this stuff up on their websites because they wanted to help entrepreneurs. We wrote about all the different funding programs available for U.S. government to help out with banks there, help out with small businesses there, and how to apply. The business owners were just scrambling, right? And things were constantly changing and evolving, and new programs were coming out because the government was just inventing this stuff. And we kind of wrote about it and put it up on, help banks put it up on their website so they could disseminate the information. And because banks were pivotal in getting the loan products approved too. So there was a lot of that too. And that was really the focus for the first 2 years of the pandemic. And then we started doing content around, resilience and coming out of it and bouncing back. And now what's the next step for your business? And coming out of the pandemic, and the Canadian Federation of Independent Business will tell you a lot of businesses are still hurting. I mean, here in Canada too, the loan deadline just passed to repay that $60,000 loan if you took one out for your business. a lot of pressure on the government to extend the repayment deadline, et cetera. CFIB, which is the National Advocacy Group for Small Business in the States, it's the National Federation of Independent Business. But these are important groups that lobby and speak on behalf of small businesses collectively. And I'm a member, and I think they're really important to have a voice because they represent hundreds of thousands of small businesses, and they get the ear of the government, federal, provincial, and they can change tax policy. They can minimize costs to business owners. They can push for programs like we saw during COVID to help entrepreneurs get through it. Really important to be involved with those types of groups. But towards the end of the pandemic, that was that kind of content we created, was how to emerge out of the pandemic successful.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting, and there's, for your business, it's likely been no shortage of things to do because of that, the amount of information needed, and also the stakeholders needing to get that out to those businesses, banks, government, all of it needing to be explained. So many different things coming out. I mean, I know, in the United States, much bigger country, so many more different programs that were out there. Canada had its own, tough to navigate. What do you see now as you're looking? There's still a lot of businesses struggling. I've heard that. I see it. I mean, inflation, go to a restaurant, whether it's, in the United States or Canada, there's a definite, increase of cost, reduction of quality. That's just sort of from a consumer perspective. What do you see and what are you hearing and seeing is around what's next for small businesses?
Well, the pandemic really helped strengthen some small businesses because it forced them to deal with new ways of doing things or find new ways of doing things, right? How can they immediately trim costs? How can they survive? I mean, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger kind of thing. So that's helping some businesses. Other businesses like restaurants and retail are still hurting, right? I live downtown Toronto and I see it all the time walking around. Store closed, restaurant closed. They don't last very long because they're still trying to apply an old model to a new reality, I think. But it's challenging for small businesses out there. Look, you got to stay lean. You've got to have your cash flow forecast. You've got to have, as your bookkeeper or accountant will tell you, you've got to have some cash reserves. And a lot of small businesses don't, right? Surprising how many are surviving month to month or even week to week. So when something like the pandemic hit, no wonder there was a scramble for all these government programs. So I think small business owners coming out of it are going to look at their business and go, do I stay in that business? Do I evolve it? Do I abandon it and get into something else that's a little less risky? There's still a lot of that assessment going on. Staffing is a big issue for a lot of people too. So I'm a big fan of businesses that you can run that don't have a whole lot of people involved. It could be set up automation. And I think we're seeing a lot of entrepreneurs look at those type of options. It's silly to think about, but I'm fascinated by how much money the local laundromat can make. People-less operations like that, ping pong halls, right? With the swipe technology, you could go and play ping pong now in New York City. Whole chain of them apparently. You just book in your hour and pay whatever, $90, and you go in there and play ping pong for the hour, and there's nobody there, right? It's all
self-service.
And I think that's a big trend that entrepreneurs are looking at.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, you can buy pizza at the gas station from a vending machine. I mean, I haven't tried it yet, but I really do want to try it just to see what's going to come out of there.
Gas station pizza.
Gas station vending pizza. Pretty crazy. And yes, definitely automation on all fronts and reduction or transfer, I guess, of resources from, instead of hiring somebody next in-house, there's outsourcing and freelance vendors. There's just, the platforms have become so much more advanced and easier to work with and work on. And we've gotten used to it, which has changed as well. I'm sure you mentioned that. You work with people all over the world that are on your team. Like Tim Ferriss, 250 people work for him, but don't necessarily work with him or in his business.
Absolutely. I mean, I used to have at my peak, we had, I think, 10 employees back in the day. And this would have been back when I had a marketing agency. And today it's me with about 4, I'd say, reliable contractors who do design, who do writing. So I've got my accountant,
Yes.
who looks after the finances, and some other people I bring in. But the rest of it's all outsourced or apps or, it's amazing what you could do right now that's still scalable with very few people.
It is. It is. One of the things you mentioned earlier on, and I wanted to jump back onto it, was growth, right? We met actually at a networking BNI, Business Networking International BNI. We've talked about it tons of times on the podcast. Really powerful. And, I was never a member of that group. I was always a guest of the group, came quite a bit. Met you, I met Shirley, of all the people there that I've done business with or referred business to over the years, remarkably powerful. What's been your experience of that? You mentioned that having isolation is really a dangerous place for an entrepreneur. You've got relationships that you've nurtured and built that last for decades. What do you think's been your strategy or secrets of success around building those and making sure that you're not isolated?
I'm glad you brought up BNI. I love BNI. I was a member for a couple of years. And some of my best relationships today are still from BNI members. There's a group of us that get together, actually, that are all ex-BNIers. So we'll have to get you out to one of those, Michael. But, what a great group. I know you've talked about it ad nauseum, but BNI solves a core problem is how do entrepreneurs get out there and network? If they're working by themselves or working in their spare office or working in their basement kind of thing, how do they get out there? BNI forces you to get out and connect with other entrepreneurs and share your story. And what happens is the people in the room all become your brand ambassador and get to know what you do so well. They look for opportunities in their day-to-day business life and they refer back to you and you get referrals in as well. So it's like having an extended team, right? But the side benefit you mentioned is that camaraderie and support. They're there to help each other out. And any good networking group should. Not only connect you with people, but hey, how can I help you? What are your challenges? Not just from a sales perspective, but how are you feeling? How are you coping with this? Are you feeling up? Are you feeling down? Have you got stresses in your life? Do you want to talk? Any good networking group, I think, has got that kind of caring element going for it as well. Which hopefully comes naturally. BNI, because you spend every week together, and there's also breakout meetings, that kind of does happen naturally. And I'm a big fan of BNI. And by the way, I was going to mention that for bookkeepers and accountants, I think it's a slam dunk to join.
Absolutely.
Because one per category, right? There's one lawyer, one accountant, one graphic designer per group. You might have a group of 25 people. So you're it, and you kind of get, promoted by all those other 24 other people. And for the accountants and bookkeepers I've met over the years, it's been a real source of referrals.
Absolutely. And yeah, there's people who've built fantastic businesses just on BNI. It's not it can be quick, but it shouldn't be gone into for, a quick fix to finding and building a business. I think it's a lifestyle, life-altering experience that you invest time and energy over a long period of time. You get massive results. Just as we were talking there, I was thinking, where else have I had, there has been such great partnerships, and I don't even want to call them vendors because those experiences are not vendor-like. They're partners in my business, and I've met them through a BNI connection. It might not be that I knew that person, but I knew the person who referred them, and I love the person that referred them. So there's already that. I know they're a good person with good judgment, sound judgment, and they say, yes, this person made a difference for me. And now I get to benefit from that. And I'm not even in BNI. So it's a powerful organization. And, not all groups are alike. You have to make sure you get in one that's good. But you are definitely a power one, I think, that has probably changed the lives of many people.
Yeah. And if you're looking for a couple of other future podcast guests, I've got a couple in mind that you might like that are from that group, social media, PR. Might be interested to talk to.
Oh, absolutely. We're always looking for great guests. Always looking for great guests. So no, it's wonderful, Roger, to have you on the show. I can't wait to get a copy of your new book that's coming out. You've got a lot of knowledge. You've made a massive difference for so many entrepreneurs along the way and in your life. It's really an honor to have you on the show.
Happy to be here and hope to come back again sometime soon, Michael. Thank you for having me.
We would love that. Now, before I let you go, if there's anything that our listener can take advantage of, if you've got resources that you would like to direct to, or if they just want to learn more about you, what's the best way for them to do that?
I guess the best way is to go to the website, rogerpierce.ca. That's PIERCE .ca. And on the website, I've got a tab just called resources, and it's free stuff I put up there for entrepreneurs. It's nothing that I'm doing. It's like links to funding programs, links to training, links to government programs, stuff I found that links to calculators and tools that might help you in your business. So if someone wants to check that out, rogerpierce.ca, and click on the resources tab.
Beautiful. We will have that link in the show notes. And Roger, again, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Michael.
And with that, we wrap another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. To learn more about today's wonderful guest and to get access to all sorts of valuable free business building resources, you can go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Until next time, goodbye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.